Welcome, everyone, to All Things Brunswick. This month, we are focusing on our veterans. We appreciate them so very much. They are a very important part of our lives.
Yes, absolutely.
And before I introduce our guest, I just want to thank my co-host, Todd Osborne, for joining us. We're happy to have you, Todd. We missed you last week.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And our technician, who's TK, we couldn't do a thing without you, TK. We love you. Thank you for all your stuff you do for us. And on that note, I wish to introduce Anita Hartzell. And she is the Senior Veterans Service Officer of Brunswick County. I've known Anita for a while, a few years.
A few years.
But thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my honor to be here. Thank you.
You are just remarkable. I mean, you just work and work and work, just like the Energizer Bunny. I know that without your assistance, my husband would not have received what was due to him.
Well, it's my honor to help.
And I'll tell you, he was a fan of yours.
Oh, thank you.
Very much so.
Thank you.
Yep. But you have done so much for so many of our veterans in this county.
It's been an honor to do so.
Oh, and you know, that's so obvious, and that makes it all the more special.
Thank you.
It really does. Tell us a little bit about you. Are you a native of this county?
No, actually, I'm not. I'm a transplant.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I was actually born in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
But lived in Victor, which is cornfield, cow pasture country. And my dad was Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne. But that was long before I came along. And they had friends that moved down here, and they came to visit. And Dad's like, I remember the area, and I love it, and I want to come back. So
Great.
yeah.
Lucky us.
Yes. Lucky me.
Lucky us, your dad chose this area.
Yes, absolutely.
So you came when you were young. Did you go to school here?
I did. Went to West Brunswick High School, graduated.
Great.
I spent all 4 years there.
Well, I'm impressed, I swear. Well, we are so fortunate to have you. And how long have you worked for this service, this VA service?
For Brunswick County Veteran Services, 23 and a half years. It'll be 24 in June.
Wow.
Doesn't seem possible.
No. And you're still going strong.
I am.
I seem to remember when Tira and I first came to your office, it was just you.
It was myself and Harry Yoder, who was my boss.
Okay, that's right. You and one other person,
Yeah.
and you were extremely busy.
Yes.
And then later on when we came, you had a helper. And now you have two helpers, right?
Actually, there's 4 veteran service officers, including myself, and a technician, and we're in the process of hiring the 5th service officer.
Wow. And so you have enough work for all of those people?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, more than enough.
How many veterans do we have in Brunswick County?
The VA is estimating our veteran population to be 14,598.
And growing.
Yeah, and growing.
Wow.
But that figures from their fiscal year 23 figures. The 24 figures haven't come out yet. But just as an example, we're averaging, in the last 8 months, we're averaging about 90 new veterans to our office each month.
Wow.
So we are extremely busy.
Is there a particular reason, or is it just everything? that brings
Everything,
them?
not only trying to see about what benefits they might be eligible for. They're new and moved to the area, and they may have benefits, but now they're trying to get North Carolina benefits, like the veteran license plates, hunting and fishing, and the property tax exclusion if they're eligible. They have to be 100% permanent and total, or with individual unemployability permanent and total to meet the requirement for the tax exclusion.
You know, there are a lot of rules and regulations, and my concern is the widow
Yes,
of a veteran
right.
who is not aware that there are things she is entitled to.
Right.
Since I lost my husband, and it's been 7 years, I can't believe it, but I have met a lot of ladies who are going through that period of time just before they lose their spouse. And I know in 2017, President Trump at the time, he brought forth a bill stating that the widow of a retired vet who was receiving disability, that person, that widow, should receive half of that disability if, in fact, the service person died from that thing that he had. Here's the thing, Anita. These girls, these women, they have no idea.
Right.
They know nothing about this.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough because you told me. And so I've been passing the word. And I have 2 friends who are now receiving it who had no idea that they were entitled.
Yeah, there's VA has what's called dependency and indemnity compensation, also known as DIC for short, and that's when the veteran passes away from a disability that we can connect to their military service.
Right.
Or if they had the 100% permanent and total, or IU permanent and total for 10 years or more prior to their passing, then we can get that DIC benefit granted based on they had the permanent and total status for 10 years or more. And any veteran that comes into our office that has a service-connected disability, especially ones that once they get the 100%, there's additional benefits that they're eligible for. I have a sheet that I created, a DIC burial information sheet that I give them, and I have all my staff give them, so that way they are aware of the benefit.
And that is wonderful.
Yeah, it's easier for them to know ahead of time.
Yes.
Before the veteran passes away that, my husband's service connected for diabetes and hypertension, and if these are on the death certificate, then it's likely I would be able to get it. It's less is more.
Well, that was the big thing, because the only stipulation was the fact that the doctor had to state on Tier's death certificate that he died from a service-related illness.
Right.
And when I told these ladies, because their husbands were receiving 100% disability due to a service-related disease or injury,
Right.
and so they weren't aware that they would be entitled. I think that's sad, and I wish that there were a way that, I guess maybe just to get the word out, ladies, check and see what's available to you.
Right, absolutely.
A lot of it is pre-prepare.
Yeah.
We went through that. My father and my
Exactly.
father-in-law both passed from Agent Orange exposure, and they told us in advance that this is what needs to be on the death certificate.
Right.
Right.
And I'd asked them, why does it specifically have to say that? And they said, well, the thing is, what if he died in a car crash?
Exactly.
Then they're not responsible for it, which Agent Orange is completely different from the rest of from the way it was explained to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It was part of a court settlement. It's not something that the VA recognized until they got sued.
Right.
And then
You're
they
right.
had to.
For
they
some
had
of the presumptive conditions.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
because we went through all those hurdles with my dad and my father-in-law. And but yeah, it's more of, if you're a veteran and you're 100%, they need to come talk to you.
Right, absolutely.
And prearrange. We had everything so prearranged. When my father passed, I went down to the VA office, did some paperwork, and it was done.
Yeah,
You
Yeah,
know, doing it ahead of time makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, if you don't know who's going to sign that death certificate, circumstances being that when they pass, where they pass,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. And so if the widow knows ahead of time that she is entitled to this, she can just make sure that when they do, sign it.
In most hospice organizations, because
Yes.
usually you end up with hospice.
Right.
Most of them are aware of that. If you discuss it with them at the very
Right.
Right.
beginning,
Yeah.
they kind of pre-plan for
Yeah,
that.
and,
Yeah.
and we've worked with several of the hospice agencies where they'll call us and we say, look, you need to have this, this, and this, if possible, listed on the death certificate, if not as the main cause, at least as a contributing factor in the veteran's passing.
That's great.
Yeah.
So they can call you if need
Yeah,
be.
absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and we're actually, it's a thick, we've pulled up all of the veterans who've passed away in our office, and we're working on going through that based on the PACT Act changes and new presumptive conditions being added. We're actually trying to reach out to any widows that we come across that might potentially be eligible for benefits based on the new presumptive conditions and locations based on the PACT Act that was passed in 2022.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and we've
Do you have
actually
enough
gotten a
staff
few.
for that?
Not
Not
really.
really?
No,
Are you
we're kind of
allowed
doing it in
volunteers?
between. But we do have some volunteers. We have some amazing volunteers that come in and help us out. Yes. And
So
one has
you're-
been helping me with that list, but it's a long list.
I'm sure.
So you're reaching out to these ladies who've lost their husbands and informing them. that
Yes.
it's
Yeah, we're going
possible.
through to see, one, if they're still alive, they're still with us. Two, what did the veteran pass away from? If we have that information, and when did they serve? Do they meet the criteria for potentially being eligible for
Right.
benefits? And if they don't meet any of the criteria for anything, then we're not troubling them trying to get their hopes up.
Right.
But if we see that they might potentially be eligible for a benefit, then we're contacting them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Well,
'Cause-
being on the offense instead of defense, that's kind of
Yeah.
unusual for government especially.
Right, yes. Yes. Trying to
But-
make sure they get all the benefits they can possibly receive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
they can get a pretty substantial amount of benefits.
Yes.
Well-
And so that helps out, especially in this day and age.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
The monthly DIC rate is $16.53 and change right now a month, so that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, my mother-in-law is still getting benefits from my father-in-law from when he passed, and which he was Agent Orange. So I don't know. I know it's different, but I don't know how different from other disabilities.
DIC rate is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the one thing with regards to DIC as they age, if they get to the point where they're housebound or they need aid and attendance of another person, there's a form that their doctor has to fill out, and we can submit that to get them a little bit of extra money in their check each month.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's something to keep in the back of your mind.
Yep. I think it's wonderful. It really is, because who in the world in this day and age can live on just Social Security?
Right. It's
It's not happening, folks.
No, it's not.
So that is wonderful. So exactly, your job is just to meet with the veteran or the family of and explain to them what is available for them.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
We're accredited service officers, and we're there to assist the veteran and their family members in applying for any kind of benefits through the VA or state or local
Right.
government that's
Now-
veteran related.
What about if they are in need of medical care and they're going to the VA? Is this something that you prompt them to do, or you're allowed to help them with that?
Well, if they're not already in the VA healthcare system, then we assist them in completing the application form to apply to get into the VA healthcare system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have finally a few facilities here.
Yes, yes.
I know that when Tier first got sick, it was they were paying for it, but he had to see doctors in the area.
Yes, they're still doing community care because VA has a very hard time keeping any doctors. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was fine because they were taking care of it. They were paying for it and making sure that he had the meds he needed
Right,
to have. But
right.
I think we have a little bit more than that now, don't we?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Now, what would you say is the best thing that's happened to this system in the last 4 years?
The best thing that's happened to the VA system
In this area?
in this area, it's been more than 4 years, but getting the clinic, the primary care clinic here in Brunswick County was a huge win. No, it didn't turn out to be the huge facility that we wanted, that they
Right.
put in Wilmington instead, but they did it because it's more centrally located for all of the surrounding counties to use. So having the clinic here in Brunswick County is a huge win. But really, not just for our area, but the PACT Act adding the additional presumptive conditions and presumptive locations for potential exposure is a
That's great,
huge
yeah.
thing. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know many, many veterans who fought and fought and fought. Vietnam veterans who were in the midst of Agent Orange, and
Yes.
they did not recognize it for
Right.
many years,
Yes.
including my husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they finally did recognize it, so it came about, as you said, due to a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So God works in mysterious ways.
Yes, ma'am, he does. Absolutely.
I had written down some questions, and I think at the top of the list, because many people that I have talked with are concerned with this, as am I, and that is our veterans who are homeless.
Yes.
Do we have a lot in Brunswick County?
There are some. I don't have any figures for homeless here in Brunswick County. A lot of what we've seen are just generally over the years just people transitioning through, stopping in to see what they can receive, or who have fallen down on their luck based on, loss of a job or family unit coming apart, and then, they've been without. They are then without a home because of that. But there's the Brunswick County Homeless Coalition that has been wonderful in helping
Is that
anyone in need.
Is that the service that is available to veterans who are homeless?
They're for any homeless.
Right.
The Homeless Coalition is for veterans who meet the VA's definition of being homeless. They have HUD-VASH vouchers, and that's through the homeless social worker at the VA clinic in Wilmington.
Okay. Now, what does that entail?
Basically, if they meet the requirements, they're working with the social worker and the public housing office in Bolivia. They get the HUD-VASH voucher where they're looking to find suitable housing that they can use the HUD-VASH voucher with, where they're helping to pay so much of the rent.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Great. I think the other thing that is very disturbing when we talk about veterans is suicide.
Yes.
And are you aware that there is a lot of that here?
I don't want to say there's a lot. There are some that I've seen over the years, but I haven't seen it unless we're just not seeing the family members after the veteran has passed, if there's no spouse or dependent children. Thankfully, in Brunswick County, the 22 a day is not something that we have
Right.
thankfully seen here in Brunswick County.
Good.
Yeah. which is a blessing.
Right. Well, and I think the reason that we know this is because when it does happen, it is very newsworthy. I hate
Yes.
using that
Yeah.
term, but of course, you know, the media is going to jump on it because they are a veteran
Right.
and because they have committed suicide, and so I don't hear much of that, and I'm so happy about that.
Right, yes. We are grateful as well.
What do you think, Todd?
And unfortunately, we have a good bit of it up in Cumberland County,
Do you?
which, I mean, we're Fort Bragg, so you've got a much higher
Right.
percentage of veterans there. One thing I was curious about is, what do we have as far as mental health for veterans in Brunswick County, or do we?
Well, it's through the primary care clinic. They have to talk with the VA primary care doctor or the VA social worker, and VA is going to ask them the mental health question, the typical mental health questions, and then if they're needing that assistance, they refer them to see mental health through the VA clinic. For combat veterans or military sexual trauma veterans, they have the option of the vet center. Jacksonville Vet Center covers our area, and they have a satellite office at Cape Fear Community College. They used to come here. I was able to get them a spot at the Leland Parks and Rec building, but it wasn't used as often as what it needed to be, and so they ended up transitioning up to Cape Fear Community College, and they meet there on
Cape Fear
Thursdays.
Community College is where?
Downtown Wilmington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep all the community colleges straight.
So So is it like it is a place where they can go and speak to someone?
Yes, for mental
Okay.
health services, but they have to be a combat veteran, or it has to be based on military sexual trauma for them to be eligible for
Right.
the mental health services through the Satellite Vet Center.
Okay. Now, what about PTSD?
As long as it's based on combat or military sexual trauma, they would be able to get it through the Satellite Vet Center, through Jacksonville at the Cape Fear Community College. Otherwise, they can get mental health services through the VA clinic.
Okay. I do know that they do have group therapy at the VA clinic and a couple of other things. In speaking with some friends of mine whose husbands have been part of that, and
Right.
they were amazed. They said it's wonderful. And one of my friends said, I didn't think he'd go back, but he was looking forward to it.
Oh, that's good to hear.
And I said, that is wonderful.
Yes,
so it has
absolutely.
to be good
Yes.
because you know how guys are.
Yes.
Well, and the thing is when you're serving active duty, because I've actually seen this happen at Fort Bragg, guys will come back and they have PTSD, but they don't want to get out. They don't want to be pushed out of the military
Yeah.
or, in their career early or anything. So they learn how to answer the questions.
Right, exactly. They do.
Yep.
So that way they don't get tagged as having PTSD and they can continue with their career.
Correct.
Yeah.
The problem is usually it's the spouses and the children that suffer from that,
Yes.
because all the anger or hurt or whatever it is they have inside of them, they tend to take it out on their loved ones.
Right.
And that's pretty much anybody.
Right.
That's kind of normal, but they've learned how to. I know what questions they're going to ask. I know what to say, what not to say, and let it go at that. And they continue serving without the help.
Right.
And the problem with that is it snowballs,
Yeah.
It
and
does.
eventually it
So,
gets really bad.
Todd,
So
what do you think? At what point do they finally ask for help?
usually it's someone outside that forces them into help, going to their command or whatever. The problem is once they're reported, then that individual is flagged whether there's an issue there or not.
Right.
And so their career is pretty much ruined after that, even though they say that's not the case. The reality is it is.
Right.
Oh, that's so
Look at what they
sad.
do, not what they say.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we're going to break and pay some bills. And folks, please stay with us. It's a very interesting and very important conversation. We'll be right back. What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, attorney at law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Welcome back, everyone, to All Things Brunswick. We have Anita from Brunswick County Veteran Services with us today. And you were going to, during the break, you were talking about you have some information that people might be able to use.
I just wanted to make sure that the veterans and the surviving spouses are aware about the fact with the PACT Act changes for Agent Orange exposed or herbicide exposed veterans under the PACT Act. The VA added hypertension, which is also commonly known as high blood pressure, and MGUS to the Agent Orange presumptive list. But more importantly, they added 5 new locations for herbicide exposure. And there's specific dates for each location, but Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Guam, and Johnston Atoll are all of the 5 different areas with regards to Agent Orange and herbicide exposure. With regards to Agent Orange, the most common conditions we see in Vietnam veterans or those exposed to herbicides, excuse me, is hypertension, the high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes mellitus, prostate cancer, ischemic heart disease, which is also known as coronary artery disease, where the veteran has blockages leading to the heart, may have had stents placed because of the blockages or had a heart attack. You would be surprised at how many veterans I've asked, if they've had that, and they tell me no, and then I start talking about stents or heart attack. Oh, yeah, I had that. So,
does that include congestive heart failure?
If they have the high blood pressure or the coronary artery disease, where we can connect the congestive heart failure to the, those causing the development of the congestive heart failure, then we can secondarily get it service connected and more likely.
I know on my dad's, they connected that because he had already had the prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. And so it connected that way. So they're figuring it out. One of the things I was curious about, the burn pits in the Middle East.
Yes.
Is the VA finally recognizing that?
Yes, they are.
Finally.
My brother-in-law had to deal with multiples of those in his service in the Middle East.
Right.
And he's not having any issues now that we know of, but I was thinking, is this going to turn out to be another Agent Orange where it's going to have to be this massive lawsuit before they ever do anything?
Right.
But they are starting to recognize it.
Well, that came about with the PACT Act came about. It's called the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxics Act, more commonly known as the PACT Act for short. But
That's a mouthful.
Exactly. They added 20 new presumptive conditions for veterans exposed anybody basically from Vietnam forward, but primarily the majority of the conditions on that list are for Gulf War veterans from August 2nd of 1990 forward. With regards to that, there's a lot of cancers, lung-related conditions, along with chronic sinusitis and chronic rhinitis.
It's okay.
Yes, I apologize. I forgot about my lunch alarm. It's time to get back to work. I apologize.
Not a problem.
Now, on that list, Anita, is renal cancer part of it?
Bladder cancer was added under the Agent Orange, not, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I know that hypertension and type 2 diabetes go hand in hand with that.
Right,
So I
right.
wondered if it was specified.
Yeah. Renal is actually under the Camp Lejeune water contamination, if I'm remembering correctly.
Well, and because it's so close to the other issues, as I said, the hypertension and the, they listed it when TIR had it as
Yes.
being,
Right.
because they did remove the kidney, but it was too late.
Yes, yes.
So, and I do know a couple of veterans who have had kidneys removed, and they're so fortunate because they got it before it
It spread, right?
spread,
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately, they haven't added the renal, but they added bladder, which is, we've had several Vietnam veterans with bladder cancer, unfortunately. Yeah.
well, that's exciting that they keep improving it, and I think that's wonderful. It's about time.
Yes, it is.
Is it a good idea for the survivors to, say, annually go into VA and see if they're eligible for other benefits that they're not already getting?
Well, if they're already receiving a benefit from the VA, if it's DIC or survivor's pension, which is an income and net worth-based program for veterans that served during a wartime period, basically the only other benefits would be if they become housebound or they need aid and attendance of another person when it comes to VA.
Okay, because I'm asking this, my mother-in-law's neighbor, her husband passed away from Agent Orange as well.
Okay.
And she's 86 years old and still getting his benefits and all. But she's getting to the point, I think she's developing dementia in early stages. But
Right.
we're trying to get to where there's someone with her. And I was wondering, would it cover something like that? Probably not.
Technically, no. I mean, with the, she should apply for the special monthly compensation for housebound or aid and attendance for the surviving spouse. But in all honesty, it's not enough to pay for that kind of service.
Right.
But every little bit helps. I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but for a surviving spouse, it's much less for a surviving spouse than it is for a veteran. Because when a veteran is receiving a service-connected disability, if that service-connected disability is causing them to become housebound or need aid and attendance of another person, they can apply for that special monthly compensation. But for VA to approve it for the veteran, it has to be based on their service-connected disability causing that need for housebound or aid and
Right.
attendance for VA to approve it. Where with the pension program, which is income and net worth based, there's 3 tiers. There's what I call a basic tier, the housebound tier, and the aid and attendance rating tier. And a lot of veterans who may not qualify for compensation, or if their compensation is very little, they can, but they served during a wartime period. Service prior to September of 1980, they only had to have 1 day of active duty during a wartime period. After that, they have to have 24 consecutive months of active duty, unless they were called up to serve and serve for the full period that they were called. That benefit is based on income and net worth because the veteran served during a wartime period. But it's based upon, like I said, based upon income and net worth. And a veteran can't receive both compensation and pension, but they can apply for both at the same time, and then VA would grant whichever benefit is the greater of the two.
Interesting.
And with regards to the pension program, we have a lot of people who are paying for some in-home health care or actually in a nursing facility where they're needing skilled nursing care, and they're actually receiving the pension benefit.
Okay.
So I think a couple of other things that the widow may look into is help with her taxes. Because I believe that that's still available to her, is it not?
It's not a benefit through the VA. There's different organizations, that will
Okay.
assist.
Because I know that, and I have not looked into it. I know when we owned our home here, when Tara became disabled, we received help with that because he was still alive. I sold the house here, but I own a house in Maine, and I was told that I should go and check on that.
Okay, so, all right, as far as taxes, when you said taxes, I immediately thought income tax, because it's
No.
tax time.
No, real estate. I
Yes,
should have
for
said
real
that.
estate
Real
taxes.
estate.
Okay,
Property taxes.
right, for property taxes. So North Carolina has what's called a disabled veteran property tax exclusion. And that's where your primary residence is here in North Carolina. You can only get the property tax benefit on your primary residence. And if you are a surviving spouse of a veteran, you can't have remarried after the
Right.
veteran's passing to be eligible for it. And it's where
Well-
the first $45,000 of the assessed property tax value, there's no tax on everything over that you have to pay taxes on.
Okay, because I rent here and do not own property, but I do own property there. And I am there half of the year.
Yes.
They suggested that I go and see about it there. So I've not done that yet, but I
Right.
will.
Yeah. Every state has different benefits, so you definitely
Right.
need to check with them to see what they have.
And that could be handled through our county tax assessor's office here, right?
That's actually, our office assists with that. Because
Okay.
as an accredited veteran service officer, it used to be just the state
Right.
service office was the one that did it. And then they passed it down to the counties. So as long as you are an accredited veteran service officer, you can sign off on it. So we, for the last, oh goodness, I think three, maybe 4 years now, we've actually been doing it. So there's a certification form that you have to have done that we
Right.
certify showing that you're eligible, but we have to have the documentation showing that you're eligible.
Right.
And anything that, when we certify a form, we have to have something that's been dated within the past year showing that you are eligible for that benefit in order for us to be able to sign off on it.
And then each year, I'm told that when a person receives it, then the tax office sends them a form each year to sign that everything is still the same.
Yes, ma'am.
Or if something has changed, they're supposed to let them know on that form.
Right, absolutely, yes.
So,
Okay.
just to round this up a little bit, if you're a veteran and your primary resident is Brunswick County, they need to come see you.
Right, they need to call our office, yes.
And you might be able to get a little relief on your property taxes.
Correct. But the veteran has to be 100% permanent and total service-connected disabled
Right.
or been granted individual unemployability deemed permanent and total for them to be eligible for the tax benefit.
Yep.
Now they know.
Just a little clarification.
We
Yes.
should be writing this down, Todd. This is true. It is being recorded. Is there a couple things that you might pass on to our audience that people tend to forget that they are entitled to? That's something specific that maybe happens a lot.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is a lot of veterans think, well, I didn't get injured as bad as he did. I don't deserve it. And that's not true. Any veteran who served their country, who has a disability that we can link as being caused by their military service is eligible for the benefit regardless of how severe the disability is.
Right.
They're just as entitled to it and they should apply.
We have our next door neighbor in Hope Mills. She is I think, 26 years old now, but she did 2 tours in,
Oh,
I can't remember
wow.
if it was Afghanistan, but it's the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, she's got all these heart issues. She's had like 7 or 8 heart surgeries.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
my.
26 years old.
Oh.
And they med-boarded her 100% and all. And the whole time she kept thinking, well, how is this related? Well, part of it's probably because of the burn pits.
Yeah.
Probably so.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
That's sad.
you
It
know,
is.
don't count it out. Talk to somebody who knows what they're
Exactly.
doing.
That's right.
And make
Absolutely.
sure,
Yeah.
because you earn those benefits. You need to
Yeah.
get them.
Yeah.
Gosh.
For VA to grant a service-connected disability, they want to see that it's been a chronic condition. And there's 4 ways to get a service-connected disability. Either direct, where there's documentation in the veteran service treatment records that they were diagnosed with this condition on active duty, or there's a link showing that you had an injury in service where it could have caused the disability that you have today. Or there's through aggravation, where if you had a disability prior to entering the service and you can show that your military service aggravated that condition beyond its normal progression, you can get it service connected.
I had no idea.
Yeah, then there's presumption, where if you were exposed to certain toxins, Agent Orange, burn pits, some sort of toxic chemical exposure in service, and there's a link between your disability and that toxic exposure or Camp Lejeune water contamination, you can get it presumptively service-connected. And then the 4th way is if you have a disability already service-connected and you can show that that disability has caused another condition to develop, you can secondarily get that service-connected. Like, for instance, a Vietnam veteran who has type 2 diabetes mellitus. Well, they've now been diagnosed with diabetic peripheral neuropathy, which is burning, tingling, numbing sensations in their extremities.
Exactly what Tier had.
Yeah. Diabetic nephropathy, where their kidneys are shutting down. Diabetic retinopathy, where they're having visual issues as a result of the diabetes. Those are all secondary service-connected conditions.
It's strange because I do know that when you, as a organization, so to speak, choose your doctors to see our veterans, I have to tell you, you do a great job because they are wonderful. They do look for everything. The doctor who discovered that Tier had cancer was actually seeing him for his neuropathy in his legs.
Wow.
And then he knew that there was an issue. So he suggested to Tier that he go back to his primary and have a PET scan. And then that's when they found it.
Wow.
So he went above and beyond.
Yeah.
So
Just a little clarification, that's all Department of Veterans Affairs. We're county government, so we don't have anything to do with the healthcare side as far as
Right,
doctors or
right.
anything like that. So a lot of people think that we're part of the VA, but we're not. We're just strictly county government. The county actually started the Veteran Service Office back in 1947 with emergency funds to assist World War II veterans and surviving spouses in applying for benefits to the VA. And there was such a demand for it that it
Right.
became a permanent office back in 1950.
but regardless, you are very important to the veteran.
Yes, thank you.
Well, and the
Yes.
thing is if they're here local, they can come to you and you can direct them where
Exactly,
they need to go.
yes,
And
yes.
possibly give them guidance on
Right,
it.
yeah. If they're needing something that the VA doesn't provide, then we try to refer them to different agencies in the community to try and get the benefit or assistance that they're needing.
Right. Have you been to the new facility in Fayetteville? I say new, it's probably about 6-7 years old now.
I have. It's been several years, but I have.
Half
It's
the parking
huge.
lot's handicapped.
Yes, yes.
I remember the old one. That's where I was taking my father and my father-in-law
Yep,
over
on
on
Ramsey
Ramsey
Street.
Street.
Yeah.
And I think they're still using that for some
They
things.
are.
But the new facility, and it's a nice facility, don't get me wrong, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's almost the same size as the one in Durham, across the street from Duke.
It might be. I don't know size-wise, I don't know.
We got really lucky with my father because even before all the changes that have happened now, he passed in 2010, we were allowed to take him to Duke in the UNC. because the VA just didn't have the resources. And then they got to this point to where they weren't allowing that, and I don't know how that came to be. And then all of a sudden, I think in 2016, they were like, no, this is ridiculous. We don't have the resources. Let them go wherever there's help.
Right.
Right, yeah,
And so they've gotten back to that, and it's making it much better.
right.
But you still have to jump through all the hoops.
Yes, you do, unfortunately, yes.
Well, the clinic that they have in Wilmington is awesome as well.
I haven't been to that
Oh,
one.
that
It's a
is-
beautiful
it is
facility.
very nice. I mean, they have everything.
Yeah,
On one corner, you have your pharmacy, and then, I mean, there's everything.
yeah.
So it's a very, very nice. And I have to say that the folks that work there, and they finally, and I know this is government, but bless us, they put more than one person to greet people for a specific area.
Yes,
The last time I was there, I noticed they had 3.
good.
I went, this is wonderful.
Yes.
So, but it's very nice. And
It
we're
is.
very fortunate that
We
we
are.
have it.
So where is your office located at?
Our office is located at the Government Complex Center in Bolivia, in Building F as in Foxtrot. But yeah, everybody can call our office, 910-253-2233, to see about calling and talking with a service officer or scheduling an appointment to come in to see about benefits.
Now, did you say you had some information on some events or something that was coming up?
Not events, just talking about the PACT Act.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
Yeah. Well, the main thing was about for the Vietnam veterans or agent herbicide exposed veterans, but also that I talked about the PACT Act, but prior to the PACT Act, I want to make sure that the veterans are aware that VA not only was Agent Orange used and recognized as far as for Vietnam veterans or the inland waterway veterans, which were referred to as Brown Navy, where they were in the inland waterways of Vietnam. But they under Blue Water Navy, VA has added the 12 nautical miles off the coast of Vietnam or Cambodia with regards to Agent Orange exposure now. So if the veteran was on a ship that was within that 12 nautical miles of the coast, it's possible for them to get
Right.
Agent Orange
Yes.
presumptive benefits. But VA also recognized if the veteran served in a unit at or traveled to the DMZ in Korea between 67 and 71, it's also recognized for Agent Orange exposure. But the problem with that is you have to prove you were in a unit that traveled to the Korean DMZ if you weren't actually in a unit at the DMZ. And then also for any Air Force veterans that served on a regular basis around C-123 aircraft that would have been using herbicide exposure, especially for Operation Ranch
I
Hand.
actually met one of those. He was responsible for loading and unloading it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he actually told a story where one of their flights was coming in and they hadn't fully unloaded their load, and the hose that they drop out to spray it fell out of the aircraft
Oh, wow.
over the landing field.
Did it go off?
Oh yeah, all of it ran
my
out all over
gosh.
Yeah.
where the troops were, and
Oh
he
my
was in the
gosh.
Air Force. And
Wow.
I met him taking my father-in-law to the VA, and that's what he was there for.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kind of surprised me, and you almost never hear about, is Agent Orange babies.
Yeah.
The VA still only recognizes if they were born with spinal bifida. The fact is, there are hundreds of thousands of us out there.
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
There was a huge gap between my siblings and I, 14 years.
Wow.
I was a welcome home from Vietnam baby.
Right.
And it's funny because my son, all the countries you mentioned, Laos, Cambodia and all, my son worked for DPAA in Hawaii, and they went out looking for POW MIAs. He's been to all those countries
Wow.
looking for the remains. And when he got back, then all of a sudden I've got a granddaughter. And so we're both Vietnam babies. That's
Right.
our claim to fame.
Yeah.
But one of the things he was telling me, and just like the people that died in USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
If their bodies were not recovered, they're not classified as deceased. That's the
They're
way.
still missing in
Yeah.
action.
Yeah. Isn't
Right.
that
And they're
sad?
and
Yeah.
Oh,
the one thing I was
gosh.
curious about though is how does that work for the benefits?
Good
question.
That's a good question. That's one I actually, in my 23 years of doing this, I
Never
haven't
dealt with.
come across one where the veteran was missing in action and trying to apply for benefits. I think there's, for some reason, I'm wanting to say something about after, I could be wrong, but something about after 7 years or something, they might be
Okay.
declared deceased is what's coming to my mind, to see about benefits. Yeah.
But I mean, but think about it though,
Yeah.
even 7 years.
That's a long time.
And a lot of the spouses of soldiers don't get to have a solid career because they're
Right.
moving from
Right.
base to base to base.
Exactly.
Not that they're not professionals, they just don't get to build that career.
Right.
If your spouse comes up MIA, what are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get the benefits or anything.
You know, that
You
is
would
a
think there should be a-
good question.
Some way to
Yeah.
address that.
Yeah,
And I'm sure there probably is,
Yeah.
especially after World War II with Pearl Harbor, because there's a ton.
Well,
that are
there
missing.
are many
Right.
still MIA in Vietnam.
Right.
Many.
Right.
And it wasn't until several years after Saigon fell that they allowed us to go and look a little bit at certain areas. So anything could have happened to
Right.
these. I mean, they are gone. They'll never be heard of from again. But what about the poor widow with her 3 children?
Right.
You know?
And that's what I was getting to. What do they do?
Yeah. Well, the veteran would have been, they would have been on active duty, so that's something with the Department of Defense. I would think they're probably still. I honestly don't know because that's not our side. We're after the fact.
I asked a question that can't be answered.
Okay, we have
There's
to
an
think
answer
about
somewhere,
that
yeah.
while we're paying bills, folks. So that is a very good question. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, attorney at law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Welcome back, folks, to All Things Brunswick. Our guest today is Anita Hartzell. She is the Senior Veteran Service Officer for Brunswick County Veteran Services, and we've had a great conversation today. So, Anita, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what happens if they're confused and don't really know if they should see who they should see or whatever?
Well, basically, they need to call our office. That's what our office is there for, to provide information and assistance. We're there to serve as advocates to help the veterans and their family members in applying for benefits to VA. We're there to help them throughout the whole process from start to finish. So they just need to call us, and see about scheduling an appointment, or if they're not sure they want to do an appointment, our technician will take a message and we will call them back as soon as one of us is available. Because we work by appointment. It's that way we have time to review that veteran's case before they
Yeah.
come in and be familiar with it to get them the best possible benefit and not flying by the seat of our pants, so to
And
speak.
that's 253-2233
That's right.
with 910.
Right.
Oh, that's embedded in my brain.
I know, I remember talking to you a lot. But that's what we're there for.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, folks, you could not find a better person to help you than this lady right here. She was an extreme help to me, and I was confused and didn't know which end to turn up, or where to go or what to do, and she helped me so much. So if you have questions, like I said, call and make an appointment.
Right, absolutely.
You have 3 people working with you, and soon to be 4.
Yes. We've got 4 people there. I've got 3 other service officers beside myself and a technician, and then we've got the 5th service officer coming on board, hopefully within the next month.
That's great.
Yes, but then we got to get him trained and ready to
Yeah.
go.
And you guys are so busy. I wish you need to come back.
Oh, I'd love to.
Come back and see us. And
Absolutely.
if things are changing,
They are.
and I believe that they're going to continue to change, especially in your department.
Right.
And so we need to have you back on a regular basis
I'd love to.
so that you can let our veterans know what's available and those folks that have lost a person, what is available to them.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be great. So folks, please remember, it's Anita Hartzell. She's a senior veteran service officer for Brunswick County. The number is 910-253-2233. Can't forget that easy number.
Yes.
And Todd, thank you for being here today
I'm
and
glad to be
asking
here.
questions that we can't answer. We love it. And TK, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir. And Anita, thank you so much again.
Oh, thank you for
For
having me.
joining us.
Any opportunity to spread the information about veterans benefits is good.
You can tell how dedicated she is. I really appreciate you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming out
Thank you for having
today.
me. It's an honor.
And folks, come back with us next week for All Things Brunswick. Don't forget, we air on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And should you need something special, please email us. We have a Facebook site, All Things Brunswick. I have a Facebook site. You can go to that as well. Please watch us on YouTube, Instagram. We're still on the Big Talker and all kinds of places. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Good night.